Hi, 4th grade. This is Shurley English, Chapter 10, Lesson 3. I'm going to start with a sentence to classify. So pause the video, grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and try to classify the sentence on your own, and then we're going to classify it together. It says, Jane's mother opened all the curtains for more sunlight. Who opened all the curtains for more sunlight? Mother. Subject, noun. What is being said about mother? Mother opened. It's the verb. It's showing action. Mother opened what? Curtains. If we're answering opened what, our question ends with the word what there. We know it's a direct object. Let's verify the noun, because a direct object, of course, is a noun. Does curtains mean the same as mother? It does not. Curtains is the direct object. Let's change the verb to a verb transitive. The word the is always an article adjective. How many curtains? All curtains. All is describing curtains, so all is an adjective. For is always a preposition. For what? Sunlight. Sunlight is the object of the preposition. What kind of sunlight? More sunlight. We're answering what kind. It's describing. It's an adjective. Whose mother? Jane's mother. As you can see, Jane is a noun. It has an apostrophe S, so it's showing possession. It's a noun. It's also describing mother. It's a possessive noun adjective. This is subject, noun, verb, transitive, direct object, pattern 2. Let's put parentheses around our prepositional phrase for more sunlight. Period, statement, declarative sentence. So put a D at the end. Divide your sentence. Let's go to the verb so we know where to divide. So this is not an inverted sentence. The verb is just in a normal spot. So Jane's mother is the complete subject. Opened all the curtains for more sunlight is the complete predicate. And that is how we classify that sentence. So that was just some extra practice for you. If you were able to do that all correctly on your own, then you're classifying sentences pretty well. Now our major skill for this chapter is turning singular nouns into plural nouns. And I have the rules up here for you again. You're going to need to look at these rules a lot during this chapter. I can't say it enough. You have to know these rules. All right, so I'm going to put a bunch of nouns up here on this whiteboard. You're going to pause the video and try to figure out how to make them plural from these rules. So our first one is berry. Our next one is leaf. So write these down and you need to try to make them plural. Tomato. Journey. Tornado. We'll do a few more. Axe. Elf. Shelf. Mouse. And let's do box. Okay, you should be able to pause the video now and make all of these nouns plural on your own, and then you can watch how I do it and we can do it together. All right, so the first one is berry. Look at the rules. You should be able to find which rule this follows. It ends with a consonant and a Y. So it follows rule number 4. Change the Y to an I and add ES. Berries. The next one is leaf. You should notice that it ends with an F. It follows rule number 5. I'm going to write the rule number too. I should have written the rule number for berry, but you can write that on your own. I'll write it right here. So for berry, it was rule number 4. For leaf, it's rule number 5. And for rule number 5, it says that we need to change the F to a V and add ES. So it needs to be leaves. Tomato. You should notice that it ends with an O. It's a consonant. T is a consonant plus an O. So you should be following rule number 3. And that means that for rule number 3, it says that we need to just add ES. Tomatoes. Journey. You should notice that it ends with an EY. So a vowel plus a Y, that means it follows rule number 8. Right down here. And that means that we need to just add an S. So it's journeys with an S at the end. Tornado. You should notice that it ends in an O, just like tomato. So we're following rule number 3. It's a consonant plus an O, because D is a consonant. And so this should be tornadoes, like that. You need to add an ES. Axe. You should notice that it ends with an X. That means we're following rule number 2. Rule number 2 says we need to add ES. Elf. You should notice that it ends with an F. It follows rule number 5. We need to change the F to a V and add ES. So it says elves. Shelf, same thing. It ends with an F. We need to change the F to a V and add ES. It's rule number 5. Shelves. Mouse. Mouse is totally irregular. So we follow rule number 9. That one says we change the spelling completely. So of course the plural of mouse is mice. Sorry. Box ends with a vowel and an X. So it would follow rule number 2, because it ends with an X. And that rule number 2 says we add ES. So boxes. And we are done. Okay, you are now ready. If you were able to do that all on your own, you're really ready to do classroom practice 49. So go ahead and get started on that. If you need any help, the rest of this video does go over that page for you. Okay, this is classroom practice 49. Exercise 1, classify each sentence. The young couple watched the sunset from a bench in the park. Who watched the sunset from a bench in the park? Couple. Subject noun. What is being said about couple? What did they do? They watched. Verb. Couples watched what? sunset. If you're answering what couples watched what, you know that it is a direct object. Let's verify the noun. Does sunset mean the same as couple? Nope, they are not the same noun, so we know that this is our direct object. We need to turn this verb into a verb transitive. The is always an article adjective. From is always a preposition. From what bench, object of the preposition. A is always an article adjective. In is always a preposition. In what park, object of the preposition. The is always an article adjective. What kind of couple? Young. It's describing. It's answering what kind. It's an adjective. The is always an article adjective. It only has one direct object, so keep that in mind. This is a subject, noun, verb, transitive, direct object, pattern 2. Let's put parentheses around our prepositional phrases. We have a period statement, declarative sentence. Let's go back and find the verb and divide our sentence from the complete subject and the complete predicate. Watched is our verb. Everything before that is our complete subject. And everything including that and after that is our complete predicate. Okay, number 2. Yesterday, I fed my horse oats and hay after our long ride. Who fed my horse oats and hay after our long ride? I. Subject, pronoun. What is being said about I? Fed. Verb. Action. I fed what? Oats. If we're answering, I fed what? It's going to be a direct object. Let's verify the noun. Oats is a noun. Does it mean the same as I? It does not. It is a direct object. Oh, I'm sorry. It's actually a compound direct object. How did I miss that? Because it's oats and hay. So we have a compound direct object here. And we need to make this verb a verb transitive. I fed oats and hay to what? Horse. If we're answering to what, we know it's definitely going to be an indirect object, and we'll just check to make sure it's in between the verb transitive and the two direct objects. And is always a conjunction. See. After is a preposition. After what? Ride, object of the preposition. What kind of ride? Long ride, adjective. Whose ride? Our ride. Possessive, it's showing ownership, so it's possessive. It's also describing. It's also a pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun, adjective. Whose horse? My, again. We're answering whose. It's showing ownership. It's describing. It's a possessive pronoun, adjective. Fed when? Yesterday. If we're answering when, we know it's an adverb. This is subject noun. verb, transitive, indirect object, direct object, pattern 3. Let's put parentheses around our prepositional phrase. Period statement, declarative sentence. Let's divide our subject from our predicate. Find the verb, fed. I is our subject, and that's all that's in the subject. Yesterday is an adverb, so it's in the predicate. It's describing a verb. So we actually need to double underline that. Single underline our subject. It's only one word for the subject this time, and the rest of it is the predicate as well. Okay, number 3. During lunch, we were eating and talking with our friends. Who were eating and talking with our friends? We. Subject, pronoun, because we, of course, is a pronoun. What is being said about we? We were eating and talking. We have 2 verbs here. We have compound verbs. We actually have 3 verbs here. I was wrong. We have another verb right before the compound verbs. Were, right? But it's a helping verb. So we're going to label it HV. And is always a conjunction. With is always a preposition. With who? Friends, object of the preposition. What kind of friends? Our friends, you should notice. Or whose friends? Our friends. We're answering whose. You should notice that our is a pronoun, but it's also possessive and it's also describing. So it's a possessive pronoun, adjective. During is a preposition. During what? Lunch, object of the preposition. This does not have any direct objects or indirect objects, so it's we're back to pattern 1 here. We have subject, noun, verb, pattern 1. Let's put parentheses. Oops. Let's put parentheses around our prepositional phrases. We have a period statement, declarative sentence. And we have an inverted order here because we have a prepositional phrase at the beginning, and that's got to be part of the predicate. So we are going to single underline our subject. We're going to divide our sentence right here. So the rest of this is all predicate. We have were is our helping verb, and everything after that is predicate. And then during lunch is also part of the predicate. It's a prepositional phrase, and this prepositional phrase is describing when we were eating and talking. So it's got to be part of the predicate. Okay, part 2, skills, exercise 2. For each noun, write the rule number and the plural form that follows the rule. Some nouns have 2 acceptable plural forms, but you should use the plural spellings that can be verified by these rules. Okay, number 1 is leaf. You should be able to do this on your own for the most part by now. You need to look back at these rules. Again, you have to know these rules really well. Leaf ends in an F. It follows rule number 5. That means we need to change the F to a V and add ES, leaves. Pulley ends with EY, so a vowel and a Y. That follows rule number 8. Rule number 8 says we add S. Pulleys. Number 3, cliff ends with 2 F's. It follows rule number 6. we need to just add an S to the end, cliffs. Sheep follows rule number 10 because the plural of sheep is, of course, sheep. Doesn't change at all. Woman, we change completely around and we make it women. So we follow rule number 9. Baby has a consonant and a vowel, or I'm sorry, a consonant and a Y. So that's rule number 4. For rule number 4, it says change the Y to an I and add ES. Mouse, we change completely around, so it follows rule number 9. We make it mice. Patio has a vowel plus an O. That follows rule number 7. Rule number 7 says we add an S. Wish. Wish ends in an SH. That's rule number 2. And for rule number 2, it says we add an ES. Wishes. Potato is a consonant plus an O. That's rule number 3. For rule number 3, it says we add ES, so it turns into potatoes. Computer. Well, computer is just a regular old noun. So it's rule number 1. For rule number 1, we add S. Computers. 20 ends with a consonant and a Y. That's rule number 4. For rule number 4, it says we add ES. Oh no, I'm sorry. It says we change the Y to an I and add ES. 20s. Man, we change completely around. It's irregular. We turn it into men. Moose is the same singular and plural, so it's rule number 10. The plural of moose is moose. Exercise 3, use the editing guide to help correct each mistake. Underline the explanatory words. All right, let's start with our first sentence. Aunt Sarah, may I go outside and play? Thomas asked. I will be back in time for dinner. Start by underlining your explanatory words. Thomas asked. Put your parentheses around everything that is said. We have explanatory words in the middle, so we need quotation marks around the first part of what is said, and then we need quotation marks around the second part of what is said. And then we need to capitalize the first word in the quotation. And then we need to capitalize Sarah, proper noun. We need to capitalize I. You always capitalize the word I. Aunt Sarah, may I go outside and play? We have explanatory words that come after this first quote. So we need a comma at the end of the quote, inside the quotations. Thomas, we need to capitalize, proper noun. Thomas asked, this is the end of our first sentence, so we need a period at the end of it. And then we need to capitalize the next word. It's the first word of the sentence and the first word of the quote, and it's the word I. I will be back in time for dinner. We need a period at the end of our sentence. Let's count our mistakes. We should have 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, the speaker is directly addressing Aunt Sarah at the beginning. Remember, whenever they're directly addressing somebody, we need a comma after their name. So, Aunt Sarah, comma, may I go outside and play? All right, number 2, the student raised his hand and said, I have a question about our homework. Explanatory words come at the beginning. We have a long explanatory part at the beginning. Okay, now let's put quotation marks around what is being said. Let's go back to the beginning. Capitalize the first word of the sentence. The student raised his hand and said. We have explanatory words at the beginning, so we need a comma after the explanatory words. It should be a comma and then quotation marks. Just wanted to make sure you could tell. Let's capitalize the word I. I have a question about our homework. Let's put a period at the end of that sentence. And that should be all. 7 mistakes. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have them all for number 2. Number 3. Our neighbor's house is on fire and I don't have my phone, yelled Dad. Call 911. Okay, we have explanatory words in the middle. Yelled Dad. Let's put our quotation marks around everything that's being said before and after the explanatory words. Let's capitalize the first word of the sentence, also the first word of the quotation. Our neighbor's house. Neighbor's is possessive. We need an apostrophe. Our neighbor's house is on fire. And I, capitalize I. Don't is a contraction. We need to put an apostrophe in there. I don't have my phone. We have explanatory words that come after this quotation, so we need a comma at the end of the quotation. It should be comma and then quotation marks. Yelled Dad. We're using Dad as a specific name here, so we're going to capitalize Dad. We're going to put a period at the end of that sentence. And then we're going to capitalize the first word of the next sentence. So this is a whole sentence, call 911. I know it doesn't seem like it because it's small, but it is a sentence. So call 911. Let's put an exclamation point at the end. We could have put an exclamation point here too. So if you did that, great. I put in a comma, but of course you could have put in an exclamation point because it does show strong emotion. Let's see, I think we have one more mistake here because our first sentence has 2 independent clauses. So the reason why we know there are 2 independent clauses is because it says our neighbor's house is on fire. That's a whole independent clause because it has a subject and a verb. It can stand on its own. I don't have my phone, again, is a complete independent clause. It has a subject and a verb. It can stand on its own. So we have 2 independent clauses joined with a conjunction, but if we're going to join 2 independent clauses with a conjunction, we always need a comma as well before the conjunction. So it should be independent clause, comma, conjunction, independent clause. Our neighbor's house is on fire, comma, and it's a conjunction. I don't have my phone. All right, now we should have them all. Let's see, we have 15. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, we have them all.